Hello, everyone, and welcome to another battle report for the Brotherhood of Broken Banners. My name's Adam, and I'll be guiding you through this report today. Today's report is between myself on Targaryens, as usual, and Kevin playing his Starks. I chose to bring Grey Worm today, as he had a number of buffs, both directly and indirectly, and I wanted to see if they were noticeable. The big change for Grey Worm, and most Targaryen commanders, is that his extra VP card was changed for a more standard effect. Retribution of the Dragon is now an Enmity style card that you attach to an opponent after being attacked, and it gives your units that attack that unit back vicious, and if the attacker is Grey Worm or an Unsullied, more on that later, they become vulnerable as well. On top of that, Sudden Retreat now lets you reroll your commander's retreat dice. This seems relatively minor, but any positive change is alright with me. I chose to put Grey Worm in a unit of Brazen Beasts. Although slightly unconventional, I figured that the Boldness and Courage would help bolster the unit's attacks, and a cheap unit would help make room for more Unsullied in my list. Speaking of Unsullied, I'm taking a unit of each, Swordmasters and Pikemen. Swordmasters now have a weaker Dauntless, and Pikemen a weaker Disrupt, and I wanted to see how often they would be useful. On top of that, I wanted to see if the aforementioned Retribution of the Dragon change would be impactful. But I wasn't only testing buffs in this game. I've enjoyed using Jokun and Widower in lists since release, and the loss of Protector on Jokun is a relatively big deal. I chose to put Jokun in the Pikemen, since I wanted those to be the unit getting attacked anyway, and the precision would have overlapped with the Swordmasters. Speaking of, Widower is in that unit to push their offensive ability even further, and hopefully to give them some mobility. To round out the combat units, and to give me some much needed range, I fell back to the old reliable Outriders with a Fortune Seeker. Mobility when you need it, range when you want it, Outriders are very flexible, and Fortune Seeker gives them some insane damage potential, making it almost impossible to avoid multiple attacks from them. Finally, for the NCU suite, I went with Miri, Zaro, and Hizdar. Miri, fan favorite since Season 4, offers a ton of token generation off of a strong replacement effect and passive healing. I find that Hizdar complements her well, overloading the opponents with condition tokens and providing other utility whenever anybody claims a zone. Finally, Zaro's there primarily to mess with your opponent's attack dice to keep yourself healthy, but can also provide a bit of extra damage at critical moments. Taking a look at Kevin's list, he chose to bring a pretty unique commander, Howland Reed. Howland cares a lot about Crannogmen, as you'll see in a little bit. The only newness for Howland is that Crannog Traps now keys off any Crannogman in long range of the unit. One of the most interesting things about Howland is that he gives the Crannogman affiliation to whatever unit he's in, and that seems to pair particularly well with the Stark Bowmen. Bowmen want to be at the tip of long range as much as possible, and with every Howland card caring about being at most that far, it's a great way to make sure the tactics cards are rarely dead. Bog Devil Ambush in particular seems like a match made in heaven, as bowmen have a pretty decent attack profile. To form the core of his army, Kevin is running a pair of Crannogman Bog Devils, both with a Winterfell champion in them. You'll notice the army pushes out a lot of weakened tokens, which is a great proactive way of not dying, which is a key component to winning the game. Winterfell champions are a pretty loaded 1-point attachment and make it hard for you to hit the Bog Devils back before you've been made into mincemeat. Scout openings helps to force multiply the many additional attacks this list is going to bring. And poison, it will help you whittle your opponent down, especially when they're constantly weakened. Capping off the combat units is a cheap points hitter in Crannogman Trackers with a survivalist attached. The trackers have hidden traps, which was justifiably nerfed in the last patch, but a few free hits around is nothing to scoff at. On top of that, the vulnerable that they put out will help support whatever fight they're near. Survivalist makes them tough to nail down, and makes them very rarely worth extending for, something I'm sure Kevin is going to try and exploit. Finally, Kevin brought the trio of Arya, Sansa, and Catelyn for NCUs. Sansa has the ability to grab tactics cards back, making it hard to stop the train once it gets rolling. Catelyn makes sure that your units are dealing optimal damage, removing tokens, and maxing out the attack dice, much to Zaro's chagrin. And Arya helps the Crannogmen duck and weave around combat, at worst setting up a countercharge with the very unit that got charged in the first place. Overall, I'm excited to see some Bog Devil action, even if I'm not looking forward to getting poisoned. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the local event in New Jersey, Pennsylvania area happening this coming weekend, September 14th. We try and have a yearly get together to decide who has the better state. It's a lot of fun, and I know plenty of locals have been looking forward to it. Information can be found on our Discord. Hope to see you there. With that out of the way, on to the game. Today's game mode is Game of Thrones, the classic take and hold of 5 objectives. You'll see me putting down a low wall and a corpse pile, as my key units don't care about charge bonuses. Kevin, on theme, is putting bogs down on multiple points. His scout openings gives him all the rerolls he'll need. I'd tell you what objectives were on each point, but spoiler alert, they don't really come into play that much. Kevin wins the die roll and chooses deployment, having me place first on the side I'm currently standing. I start with my outriders in the middle, and Kevin responds with his bowmen in a similar position. I put my pikes down the center, wanted to get the center objective so I could set up my sentinel and protector charges. Kevin puts the trackers to the outside so they can't be teamed up on, and Widower takes his rightful place at the Jokin's side, able to split the difference between the middle and outer points. Bog Devils then go to support the trackers on the flank. I realize I left just too little space between my outriders and pikemen, and put Grey Worm on the outside relying on Sentinel to get to the fight. The last Bog Devil unit sets up the bodyguard on the bowman, and it's on to the game. Arya claims horses, and moves Howland and the bowman forward. Hizdar then claims the letters, and uses his special ability to only take one card, and instead put both a panic and a weaken token on Howland. However, Catelyn counters it perfectly, and uses the bags to remove both tokens. I pass with Zaro, and Kevin uses the lull to march the trackers forward. I respond by marching the pikemen up, but not too far, as I don't want to take free pot shots from the bowmen. As Kevin's moving his Bog Devils forward, I'm starting to realize that I put myself in an awkward situation, where anything that I start to move up is just going to get shot multiple times by the bowmen. This means I start to move the Swordmasters towards the side, hoping to avoid most of the shots, at least on them. Kevin uses Sansa to crown zap my Brazen Beasts, in order to have more of my army move before he has to. If Kevin wants to see where the rest of my army is going, he will. I do the secret redeploy strategy with the Outriders. The goal is to sweep around Kevin's army and push him into a corner so that I can control the map. This lets Kevin move his Bog Devils forward, because as brazen as those beasts are, they don't stand a fight against devils. Instead, I push them towards the rest of my army. Kevin moves his bowman forward, claiming dominion over the center of the board. I don't have much that can stand up to the abuse they can put out, so I'll need to figure something out in order to get that spot back. To end things, I claim the Swords of Miri and swap the effect with putting 2 more condition tokens out that hopefully will stick around for at least a little while. Round 1 is always a bunch of positioning, and while I'm not in a great place, I think I can try and literally turn things around by driving some units up the flank Kevin's not protecting. Speaking of, I start with Hizdar taking horses. Although it's not a zone he cares about, I want to threaten a charge should the Bog Devils on this side get too bold. Seeing an easy shot, Kevin uses Cat to take the swords. He shifts forward and shoots the pikemen. 7 dice, lands 6 hits. Huge ouch. I managed to pass the panic, but I still take 3 wounds, and on top of that, since I rolled a 1, I become weakened. On the upside, I get to play the new Grey Worm card, Retribution of the Dragon. This gives any attacks on them vicious, and additional upside for Unsullied and Grey Worm's unit. At the start of my turn, Kevin plays Threats Unseen on my pikemen to lay on more damage. Although Unsullied are a 4-up, they fail the check, and with the panic token get re-rolled into maximum damage. This might look tilting, but it's pretty normal when I play these guys. Zara will take the bags, getting an order token, and we're all going to pretend this turn never happened. Instead, the next thing that happened in this game is that Arya took the letters and weakened the Outriders. Wanting to get in on the weakened token fun, I activate Miri and have her replace the crown effect with the panic and weakened token she could put out, and put those on the Bog Devils near most of my dudes. Kevin marches his trackers up the edge of the board. However, when I go to activate my pikemen, there's an ambush waiting. A Bog Devil ambush, to be precise. The bowmen managed to make 4 hits, but I only take 1 wound, which we're realizing I should have regained earlier with Miri, so the whole thing was kind of a wash. I finally get to do something I actually want to do on my turn, which is move my unit forward. I put myself right on top of the point. Kevin sees the opportunity and swift repositions his unit forward, getting ready to charge on his turn. With a 6, he easily makes it, and to add injury to insult, plays Winter is Coming to shut off any tactics cards or orders that target my unit this turn. You know, orders like Shield Wall, Set for Charge, or Sentinel. The champion weakens me, and the devils poison me, but because Kevin had to charge over that strategic wall that I placed, I get +1 armor, and his attacks don't naturally reroll. I managed to only take 1 wound out of 4 hits and pass the panic. After the attack, I play Lash Out and I deal 2 wounds back to him. The start of my turn sees an Arya token used to retreat the Bog Devils and have them square up against Grey Worm. However, they're already activated, so I don't see them as a right now problem. Instead, I activate the Swordmasters and I nab the point that they're near. Start of Kevin's turn sees one of the Bog Devils scouting the openings of my pikemen. Uh-oh. Howland Reed scoots backwards and shoots at me, dealing 6 hits, but only a statistically average 3 wounds, and I pass the panic. These pikes have taken a lot of abuse, considering they haven't been able to use any of their fun toys. The Outriders turn back around and shoot at those overextending Bog Devils. Even with a 4 up, I managed to land 4 hits, which Kevin neglects to weaken. But with his defensive roll, he doesn't need to. They managed to easily pass the panic, so I'll just consider this one a moral victory. Kevin tries to put my pikes into the ground. He starts using scout openings on them and declares a charge, but it's a 1, and he needed a 2! Losing my centerpiece before the end of round 2 would have been very hard to come back from. The longer I don't die, the more activations he'll need to sink, and the better my chances. And to add insult to injury,
How does it feel?
man, I really needed that. Anyway, I activate Grey Worm and charge him into the Crannogman. But first, hidden traps to take 2 wounds. Normally, I'd love to give myself +1 dice in crit blow, especially with boldness and courage. However, because I don't want Bog Devils flying away with Swift Retreat, I opt to shut off all the abilities. Thank God for rerolls, as I turned 0 hits into 3. However, Kevin passes 1 of them and the panic, so I only do 2 damage. End of the round, and I have the only unit on an objective, so I score 1 point, making the score 1-0 me. At the start of the round, I know I'm in for a rough one, and Kevin delivers. He scouts opening on my pikes, and has Cat take the swords. she takes the weakened token off the Crannogman, and he plays assault orders and declares the charge. I don't think the dice are going to save me from this one. I opt not to set for charge this, as I'm currently poisoned by the Crannogman. If I make the attack, I'm going to lose a wound, which will drop me a rank. Not only will the attack be a little wimpy at 4 dice, but it'll also put me closer to death and make my shield wall less effective. Turns out that was the right decision, as using shield wall still puts me down to 1 wound exactly. Miri comes to the rescue and undoes the attack. Instead of removing the weakened token, she takes off the Crannog poison so that I can hopefully do something with them. My hopes are dashed when the second scout openings has the Bog Devil deal 5 precision hits, killing me without a defensive dice roll. I can only blame my hubris as the Bog Devils surge forth onto the point. On my turn, Kevin uses the last order on Arya to retreat the other Bog Devils back into the corner. I activate Grey Worm, and Kevin responds with hidden traps off the trackers. That deals all 3 wounds to me, dropping me a rank. I still charge and roll a 1, so I have to re-roll it with Unstoppable Advance. Between Zaro and Grey Worm, I'm still throwing 7 dice, so I have the beasts turn off the Swift Retreat again, as I don't need to be countercharged. I choose to give the attack Vicious with Fire and Blood, and all 5 hits convert to wounds. However, he still managed to pass the panic check. It was so close to a kill. At the start of the turn, Kevin uses Swift Reposition to get the trackers into a place they can shoot my Brazen Beasts. I lower the dice with Zaro, and he only manages to land 2 hits. However, both of those hits wound, and on top of that, I crit failed the panic for 3 more wounds. Suddenly, my very healthy unit is hanging on for dear life. Kevin, of course, passes the panic no problem. It's my turn again, so I use the Outriders to attack the Bog Devils that are stranded in the middle. However, with the weakened token, I go down to 3 hits and a wound, and only 3 wounds make it through. Kevin immediately goes to put another weakened token back on the Outriders. He has Arya claim the letters and puts the condition token right back on top. Start of my turn, and Kevin puts the newly drawn North Remembers on his trackers, and I pass with his Dar. Bog Devils activate and attack, and 3 hits is all they needed. Grey Worm goes down, though he manages to deal a wound off of Counterstrike. The surge forth puts the Bog Devils firmly into the corner. I try and have Zaro claim the crowns and zap the Bog Devils, but no avail. Sansa activates and uses her replacement effect to get back one of my now least favorite cards, Bog Devil Ambush. I realize that I can't outscore Kevin, and I need to try and push him off multiple points, so I march my Swordmasters forward. Of course, I put the Battle Endurance on at the start of my turn. Kevin activates his bowman that he had saved for last, for sure waiting for some idiots to walk into their kill range. It was me, I was the idiots. I take 4 wounds for my trouble. Now it's Kevin's turn to be the only unit on a point, so he scores 1, and with all the killing he did last round, the score is now 3-1, him. I want to blow up those Bog Devils before they get a chance to do anything, so I activate the Swordmasters and prepare to charge. However, the Bog Devil ambush Sansa picked up is played. 5 hits, but I save 3 and pass the panic. Realizing now, though, I should have restored 1 wound. Whoops! The charge dice is 1, but that's not a huge deal for Swordmasters as they have built-in rerolls. Zaro is used to increase the attack dice, and I do 2 auto wounds and 3 hits. Two failed saves and an unlucky panic roll, and I squash the Bog Devils. I then surge forth into a hidden spot next to the bowman. At the start of his turn, I even swift reposition to keep myself super hidden. Cat takes horses to try and get away, and I field control to keep the archers in my charge range. I activate Miri, taking 2 cards and just weakening the archers. I realize I should have healed another point here. Speaking of healing, Arya claims the bags and heals the remaining Bog Devil up 3 wounds, quadrupling their numbers. Next I pass with Hisdar. In hindsight, maybe I should have taken the swords and blocked that from Kevin. Turns out, I didn't have to wait long to regret it, as Sansa immediately takes the swords, shifts the bowman back, and shoots. I take 3 more wounds and pass the panic check. Hisdar tries to pot shot the Bog Devils again, and fails again. A little scooting around from the Bog Devils, and then the Outriders get to make their ranged attack. This is shaping up to be a game where every wound counts, so I'm happy that I can chunk the trackers for 5. Looking at the way the game's going right now, my Outriders need to kill 2 units, and my Swordmasters need to perform something akin to a miracle. But it's not totally in the realm of impossibility. Kevin activates the bowman, finally, shifts them back, has 3 hits land. I managed to save one of them, not dying on the spot, and then pass the panic. Easy game. That miracle I was talking about, now's the time for it to happen. Kevin still has an objective, so he scores 1 more point, making it 4-2. The round starts, and a familiar pattern takes place. Cat takes the swords, removes the weakened token, shoots my poor widower. Widower dies. Zaro takes the bags, a little too late, but at least he gets an order token, and Fortune Seeker can replace the zone with a ranged attack. Hidden Traps is called out, and I take the hits and take 2 wounds off of it. Now it's my turn, and even with a weakened token, 3 hits land, converting to 2 wounds, and yet another bombed panic test means 5 total wounds. Yikes. There's no doubt Kevin is still going to win this game, but at this point we're trying to see if I can make it a narrow victory, a standard victory, or if he can turn it around and crush me. Arya takes the horses and moves the Bog Devils forward, threatening a charge on my poor Outriders. I activate the Outriders and shift towards the middle of the board and shoot. I don't want Kevin having an auto in charge if I can help it. As an added bonus, 2 precision wounds automatically kill the trappers. At the start of Kevin's turn, I use swift reposition to slide a little bit farther away. Meanwhile, Sansa took the letters and weakened my Outriders again. I activate his darn pass, wanting to have all my activations possible, and Kevin spins the bows around to line up for the next round. Miri takes the crowns and replaces it with the panic and the weaken on the Bog Devils, And I finally remember to heal one on my Outriders. Last, but certainly not least, the Bog Devils use scout openings on the Outriders and try to charge them. And they made it! Kevin chooses to use the Krennic poison on me, just in case he can't finish me off right here. Crit Glow and Precision is quite the nasty combo, especially with rerolls, but fortunately I have a reroll of my own, and hopefully I'll make some of those crits misses. 3 wounds end up going through, but because of Dauntless, I heal 1 back up, so I only net lose 2. What a crazy end to the round. I've got my Outriders locked up in melee, which is not their favorite place to be, and 2 units left on the battlefield for them. Let's see what I can do. Start of the turn has Kevin putting North Remembers on his Bowman. It's not like the other unit's going to use it. These are the reasons I like taking Fortune Seeker. I activate Miri and claim the bags, healing up 1 on my Outriders. However, I'm going to use the Fortune Seeker to replace it with a melee attack. Using Fire and Blood, I get rerolls and manage 4 hits. Don't tell Kevin my unit was weakened, because he doesn't manage to save a single one of those and dies right there. I even happen to have the Overrun in my hand, which means I'm able to make the charge onto the Bowmen, preventing them from making ranged attacks on me. This poison is really eating me away though. I've already taken 4 wounds just off this 1 activation. I still managed 3 hits, weakened down to 2, both of which go through. Retribution of the Dragon I placed earlier comes in clutch because Kevin fails yet another panic check for 3 damage. If I was him, I'd be floating my dice. Catelyn is going to clap back on swords, having the melee attack roll 5 dice, but only managing 2 hits, which I boxcar, which should mean I heal 1 there. Lash Out will be used and hit them back for 2. This game is going crazy and it's really coming down to the last few attacks. Hisdar will go on the letters so that I could draw 1 card and panic and weaken the Bowman. In response, Arya is going to take the horses and declare a retreat. I play the battle endurance I drew and activate my unit to make the shot. And guess what? Bog Devil Ambush. I'm glad I weakened the Bowman because the 7 dice only produced 2 hits. However, I did fail both of those, and because I rolled a 1, I become weakened now. And because I'm weakened, I take 2 damage from the Bog Devil poisoned instead of just 1. I only managed to land 2 hits on his unit, and Kevin saves 1 of them. Because of that, it's impossible for me to kill his unit now, even though he crit failed the panic yet again. Seriously, dude, get your dice checked. Kevin gets bold and tries to panic zap me. It almost didn't work out for him very well because of Dauntless. However, I do fail because of the -1. I'm out, so Kevin gets to attack again and finishes me off with a ranged attack. That match ended up being way crazier than it had any right to. Outriders dealing double-digit damage off of melee? That's not something I had on my bingo card. Howland Reed was also a veritable machine gun in the Bowman, and it was an interesting challenge to fight. As far as the Season 5 changes, there were a few small things that were noticed, but nothing major, and maybe that's the point. Season 4 was a good patch cycle. I'm interested to see if there are other fun combos with the new changes. If you have any suggestions, send them to us on Discord or post them in the comments below. If you made it this far, we'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. The support we've already received has been awesome, and I hope we can keep making content that you guys enjoy. Have a great day, and see you next time.